If you've been online lately, you've probably heard that running a business is super easy and anyone can do it. Well, that's complete nonsense. We're here to share with you the real world of entrepreneurship. Welcome to I Can't Hustle Any Harder Than This. Hello, and welcome back to I Can't Hustle Any Harder Than This. My guest today is Emily Merrell. She is many things. She's a business coach, marketing strategist, co-founder of Ready Set Coach, founder of the Second Degree Society. I'm going to let her give a bit of a more expansive introduction. And Emily, I realized we talked way back when. You and I think, connected like a few years ago before my son was born. But we connected through my podcast producer, whose name is also Emily.
We did.
We did.
So long ago.
But it was like 3 years ago.
This is when Emily Oberman introduced us?
Yes, Emily Oberman, the podcast producer, introduced you and I, but this was like 3 years ago. I had to go back and like look in my emails because I was like, I feel like we talked. And we did.
I can't believe how full circle this is to be here today with you.
And here we are. We're talking again, but we're talking more face to face. And yeah, now we're doing this. So tell me about how you got started. You had a successful company and then you went into coaching. Yes. It sounds like.
Yes. I basically, the business coaching came after launching my business, where people would come to me and they would ask, well, how did you get a venue donated for your event tonight? How did you get that speaker to fly in and do it for free?
Yeah.
Or how did you get that sponsor to say, we want to sponsor this experience? And so I was giving away a lot of free time, and I was in a coaching program at the time, who the coach sat me down and she's like, you're a coach, Emily. And every single imposter syndrome flag went off. It was like a little firework of flags, where I didn't like the word coach because I felt imposter syndrome. I didn't go through like a certification to become a coach. But consultant wasn't the right thing because I was teaching people how to do it, not doing it for them. And finally I owned Business Coach and started my coaching journey that year. It was about a year after I launched my business. So it was about the end of 2017 that I started coaching and having that as an arm of my business. And then it wasn't really until the pandemic that I felt like I had two identities. I had Emily Merrell, who does the coaching thing, and then Second Degree Society, who does the networking thing, that I launched a business mastermind. And it was like the marriage I needed to bridge both of the community world and the coaching world into one umbrella.
That's really interesting. And I love that you mentioned the coaching versus consultant phrase, because in my space, which is dementia consulting, we work with business to business. And so we do a lot of the heavy lifting for our senior living clients. And there are people in my space who call themselves dementia consultants, but really I think that they're coaches because they work like with families and they coach. They show people how to do a thing. They teach how to do a thing, but they call themselves consultants. And so in my space especially, I think the words consultant and coach have become kind of like intermingled.
Interchangeable,
that's the word. And they're not the same thing. But so how did you reconcile with yourself, like the word coach then? Because you said you like, your red flags went off and you're like, ugh, right? Like coach is a coach is coach. Like, and you're like, how do I So did you want to call yourself something else at some point? Were you trying to come up with a new word?
Oh, I definitely was. I've played with strategist. I've played with mentor. I've played with, God, what were the other ones? Guide, advisor, like anything but coach. And then I would finish with a client and they're like, you're such a coach, you're such a good coach. I was like, yeah, I am, aren't I? Gosh darn it. And then I owned Coach so much, in fact, that I co-founded that business, Ready Set Coach.
Ready Set Coach, yeah.
With a friend of mine during the pandemic, where we both realized that when we launched our coaching businesses, we didn't do it in the traditional form of going to a certification program and then becoming a coach. We really led with like the businesses we had had or the expertise that we had had to then develop a coaching business versus, and there's no like no shame in becoming a life coach or whatnot, but some people will go from like tech and then be wanting to be a life coach versus coaching on tech.
Right. Yeah. My friend Amanda, who was also on this podcast in season one, she had a really successful interior design business in the senior living space. And then later went into coaching, and she's doing a few other things now. But she just posted an article on our Substack about, to be a good coach, you need to have done the thing. And I think that is so true. So I don't know that you need to necessarily get certified and go through a whole coaching body, but if I'm going to hire a coach, I for sure want it to be somebody who's done the thing that they're showing me how to do, and not just like talking about it generally. Yeah.
Yeah. And not ethereal. Well, so that's why we created our coaching program too, was all of the coaches that we had hired. It was more for like the general entrepreneur. And we realized there
Hmm.
was a gap in the space for coaches launching a coaching specific program. Like
Okay.
a lot of people graduated from these institutions and then didn't know how to do the business part or weren't supported on the business side. So we wanted to teach everything that we wish we had been taught in one consolidated program. So Ready Set Coach program was launched, and then after running a group program for about 4 years, we decided to turn it into a community. So coaches could connect with other coaches and get to know and share best learnings and practices with one another.
Got it. Got it. When you graduated college, tell me a little bit more about like what you did after that, and your first business or businesses before, now.
Okay, so when I graduated college, you might have remembered there was like a global downturn of 2008 and 2009.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Small,
remember that. Yeah.
dump one of our first dumpster fires growing up, basically.
Hmm.
Um, so yes, in truth, I graduated 2009 into like a large dumpster fire,
Yeah.
and I my mecca was New York City. I was like, I'm gonna go to New York. I don't know what I'm doing in New York, but I'm going to New York. And every single friend that had a job in New York was getting their jobs rescinded, or the companies were
Oh,
legitimately just
wow.
closing in front of their eyes. So I had this, I was a Spanish and communications major. I went to a university in Ohio called Denison. So
Hmm.
I learned how to communicate in Spanish in Ohio. Really random. And I decided I could go straight to New York and just take like the lowest miserable job possible, or I could take a year to figure out my life. So I wanted to continue learning Spanish and like immerse myself in a Spanish speaking country. And people really recommended Buenos Aires, Argentina to me.
Okay.
So at the end of senior year, when everyone's getting jobs and deciding what their next track was, I told everyone, I'm moving to Argentina and I'm going to go teach English for 3 months. That's it. That's like all I had decided thus far. And so I signed up for a course to like learn how to teach English for 5 weeks. Not a great English teacher, it turns out. Don't Grammar is not my jam. I'm a great coach, not a great teacher in terms of the English language. Um, but it Argentina and Buenos Aires in particular was fodder for so many entrepreneurs. So there was all these entrepreneurs,
Huh.
really, really, it was like the wild, wild west down there. And so I spent a lot of my time networking and a lot of my time connecting with entrepreneurs that were living in Argentina. So when I found companies that I liked, I would just volunteer myself as tribute and be like, "Can I be your intern? You don't even have to pay me. You can pay me in like food occasionally." I was like I was like a dog that slept outside. I was like, "I don't care, just I want to learn."
But you're in your like your
And
20s at
so
this
the
point,
first,
right? So like
oh,
it's just
totally,
like, you know,
my needs were like
oh,
limited, so
yeah,
tiny.
right. You're like, do I have somewhere to sleep? Oh, did I like have a sandwich
Yeah,
today? All right,
correct.
I'm good. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Like yeah, we get a little more high maintenance as we get older, it
Oh
turns out.
man.
Um, So long story long, my first job was with this company. She was a trip planner for Americans coming down to Argentina, and she also started a company to send care packages to kids studying abroad in Argentina with like a taste of home.
Oh, cool.
So, for example, when you're studying abroad, like the weird things you crave are peanut butter and bagels and like,
Yeah.
I don't know, American stuff, marshmallows. So we would source them, and my job was to go out to the bars and like basically flirt with the college students and get their parents' information and send the parents emails so they would send care packages to
Funny.
these people.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah. So
Huh.
I worked there and I did wine sales. Like I did a whole bunch of things and I was down there for 9 months. And then when I came back to the States, it was back to the drawing board of like, who am I? What do I do with my life? Like, what is my future? And through my network in Argentina, out of the blue, I ended up getting a like random phone call from a gal who was hiring at Ralph Lauren in the retail marketing space, doing special events for Ralph Lauren. And here I was in Argentina, kind of more hippy dippy, like who needs material things? And Ralph Lauren calls me. And I started my career, my corporate career in high luxury fashion. Started off at Ralph Lauren, went over to Club Monaco, and then kind of cut my teeth at Tory Burch, and then ended my fashion career at Intermix.
Huh.
And yeah, it was at Tory Burch that I started really exploring that entrepreneurial side of myself and building my
Wow.
business on the side.
Yeah. So is this what inspired you to launch Second Degree Society? Okay. Okay.
So Tory Burch had the Tory Burch still has the Tory Burch Foundation. And so I worked hand in hand with the foundation and helping support their events. And so I was introduced to a ton of entrepreneurs through that
Okay.
process. And I was always so frustrated that an entrepreneur I met at one event didn't know an entrepreneur I met at another event and was like, there needs to be more cohesion. How do we get these people interconnected? And so through that and also the pain point of making friends as adults, and also I was at a loss of what my next career shift was. I
Yeah.
wasn't going to be in fashion forever, but I didn't think I was like a coder on the side. Like, should I be a coder? How do you know what you're supposed to be when you've
Yeah.
only been in one lane? So I started my business not intending it to be a business, but just to be a space where people could be connected really intentionally. At all of our events, we handpick who you meet while networking, and you also get the information of all of the attendees prior to the event. So it's like you get to read about everyone, and then I do the hard part and tell you who you're connected with. And then you can follow up with the individuals you didn't meet after the event. And it accidentally became a business. Very much not intended to be a business, but it did.
Well, I wish that was how like conferences worked because I was just posting
I
on
know.
Substack about this the other day. I was like, stop bragging on LinkedIn about your 25th conference this year. Like, it's not a flex because I know, having been to a number of conferences in my life, that like you go and it's just, you just sort of like, unless you know anybody there, you sort of just float around awkwardly for a while and like you grab some swag and you eat some snacks and you grab some business cards that you're never going to do anything with and then you leave. And as a business, like one of the big conferences that we have now sponsored a couple of years is called the Senior Housing News Conference, and we've been like a gold sponsor. It's expensive. And so when I got pitched to do it again this year, I said, hey, we're not like necessarily getting the clear ROI from it. This is a lot of money. You guys are doing it in November. I'm going to lose any connections I make to the holiday. And so it's really tough, like, because we can't necessarily like make those really good connections at these conferences, especially if it's like, for example, like just me going to a conference. I don't have my team with me or something. There's no way, unless I'm like speaking at the thing, that I'm really going to make any good connections that I can keep later. And so I wish more like events were like what you're describing, where you put together clear guidelines on how people are going to connect and then being able to follow up with those connections. I think that would make just conferences and networking in general so much better.
Well, if you want to throw me into the ring while you sponsor next year, I'm happy to make that dream come true.
I, yeah, we'll see if we're not doing it this year. We'll see if we do it again in the future. It's just like the conferences being able to actually sponsor is so expensive.
Well, in the same vein, too, I find that with events and conferences, oftentimes I'm left and asking questions like, wait a second, what should I be wearing? Or
Yeah.
what's the shoe situation? And this is the most important thing that people don't answer is, will there be food? And should I eat dinner beforehand or should I expect food to be served here?
Yes.
So when I host an event, even a virtual event, I try to answer all of the questions that I think I would be asking before someone even asks the question, including like where to park, will I be fed, will there be booze, will there not be booze,
Mm-hmm.
um, is it a cash bar, like all of the specifics, because nothing bothers me more than I walk in and I am just unprepared. I love being prepared
Yep.
to manage my expectations
Yes.
in the room.
So you fell into, I would say, like event planning. It sounds like.
I know. I did. I did. And it had, I think from trip planning in Argentina, I'm very good at planning things. So then I was able to take that and turn it into event planning.
Yeah.
And then the problem I saw in corporate when we were always trying to bring in new people to come into our stores and spend a lot of money was I was able to take that problem and marry it with my organization because retail spaces love the fact that I'm hand delivering them a clienteling list for an easy lift. I'm like, here's
Yeah.
20 high quality, high caliber people. I'm creating the programming. You don't have to even market to your people. And now you get to participate and I'm asking you to spend maybe max $200 to feed us.
Yeah, that's a no. I mean, that's a no-brainer to be able to like collect all that information and like having somebody else manage it for you would be
Mm-hmm.
huge. Now you've got me being like, maybe I should do my own conference and I can have Emily do the event. Oh my God, I can't get
Yes.
it. I
Yes.
don't,
And that's what I've been
uh,
doing more of,
really?
which has been really fun. Yeah, I started off with Denison actually as a volunteer, and then they recognized how bossy I am and brought me in as a consultant, and that's where I was able to put on the consultant hat.
Yeah.
And we built out a 2.5 day conference where we brought alumni from all generations who are entrepreneurs back to Denison,
Cool.
and we were able to remix them with networking, masterminds, breakout sessions, all giving them a taste of the campus, but not like a nostalgic reunion taste, but a chance to connect with people in a very specific field.
Cool. That's very cool. Um,
Yeah,
what
fun.
what inspired you to then, we talked a little bit about this early on, the second Ready Set Coach. When
Hmm.
so you realized, okay, there's coaches out there, they need to connect with each other, slash, like there needs to be some education around coaching, right?
So even before that, I had a friend that I met the month before the pandemic. I invited her to an LA event. She lives in Ventura. She was like, I'm never going to go to LA from Ventura, so we'll probably never see each other again. And then I pivoted my events virtually because of the pandemic. So I
Right.
was seeing her every single week at all of my events. We were getting really close. And we had a client, I say we had a client who was flirting between both of us and would say to me, like, tell me, Emily, why I should hire you over Lexi. And Lexi's a PR coach, and I do more of like helping you build the business, amplify the business, market your business. So we do very different things.
Right.
And also, this is my friend. So I'm like, you hire the person who feels like your right next step.
Right.
But I went to Lexi and I was like, this keeps happening. People kind of they're torn between working with both of us. Why don't we create something for that, like amplifies both of our strengths in together? And I've
Mhm.
wanted to do a group program, but I'm too intimidated to do a group program. My executive functioning like can't get organized to put the modules together. And you're really strong at that, and I'm strong at selling. So we decided to create something that we both had a problem like that bothered us, and then also wasn't going to be competing with our already existing businesses.
Okay.
So that's how we identified the coaching space, initially was like we both had different ways in which we became coaches so we could model that and then also teach everything that we wish we had been taught as a coach as when we launched our coaching businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. When someone is going to like join your program, Ready, Set, Coach, do you kind of go through and like weed people out or in, are they, is it like, have you come across anybody who hasn't done the thing, but they like woke up one morning and they're like, I'm going to be like an entrepreneur coach. And it's like, okay, but you've never been an entrepreneur. Have you run into this kind of thing?
Yeah, so are people who like love the idea of it, but then don't also have the follow through of it. And
Yeah.
they're like, I have this idea. And yeah, you have to be cognizant. So we ultimately actually, I think I shared this with you is, after running it for 4 years, both of us it's exhausting filling a group program. Like
Yeah.
it is freaking exhausting
Oh, I
because
bet.
you are pimping yourself out all the time. And we also didn't have a place to put all of the past graduates. So that's where the community came in.
Yeah.
And our initial hypothesis was we were going to turn our program and make it a passive course. But then with AI and everything, like we would have to update the modules every single day, just how things have evolved, even since
Mm.
we ran our last course in 23. So it's been an interesting evolution to build and lean more into membership, into offerings through the membership and like a paid membership versus selling a course. So we have a lot of learnings to share there too.
And you have a couple podcasts, right? You have a couple podcasts?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're
Like a crazy person.
yeah, you're doing a lot of things. I feel like anybody, especially like other women I talk to who are in the entrepreneur space, they do many things. They wear many hats. They create a lot of content. They do a lot of stuff. Is the podcast really kind of your main content outlet, or would you say it's like Instagram? Where would you say you're kind of like focusing your time in that way?
I would say Instagram and LinkedIn are my main content outlet. I
Yeah.
love story and newsletters. I don't have Substack, but I send out at least one newsletter a week. And the podcast, I started the podcast, The Second Degree with Emily Merrell, kind of as my version of how I built this. Like I'm so curious about people and I'm so curious what made them want to start this company or
Yeah.
what makes them tick to X, Y, and Z. Very similar to you.
Mhm.
And so that's more of that format. And then Ready, Set, Coach podcast I do with Lexi. And that's a lot more fun because we'll have a theme and we don't necessarily having a co-founder is fascinating because we don't always see eye to eye on the
Right.
same thing. Like talking about sales, we both have different perspectives sometimes or Black Friday and so we dialogue a lot more and that's really fun. So
Yeah.
that one's more of like here's our thoughts on it. Well, Second Degree is more like, let me tell your story.
Nice. Yeah, it would be interesting to have a co-founder. At this point I have a team. I have a small team of people who help me with Dementia by Day. And Natalie, who's been part of my team for a few years now, said to me fairly recently, she was like, I have no idea how you did this by yourself for as long as you did. And I was like, I don't know. I didn't know any different. I didn't really know any better. And I think it was scary for a long time to collaborate. It was scary for a long time to try to bring anybody in any way to get assistance. So have you all done
It's the
that?
hardest thing in the world.
Yeah. So what, in terms of like, you have a co-founder for that, but in other ways, have you hired team members? Have you, dealt with, the hiring and the firing and all that jazz?
Yes. And I have hired people virtually. So everyone for the most part has been virtual
Yeah.
and most of the people have not lived within America. So
Oh, interesting.
my
Okay.
first virtual assistant Actually, my first virtual assistant was through an agency and she was in America, but we never Zoomed or anything. It's like everything on how not to manage someone. And then my second one lived in Macedonia and she was super green and fresh out of college. And that was interesting with the time zone. And it was also really interesting to work with Gen Z, which could be a whole different podcast
Yeah.
on terms of like, she's like, oh, I have period cramps. I'm not I can't work today. I'm like, you work from home, you could work from your bed. Like you would be fired in a normal job, but
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Um, and then I've had people from Argentina, and right now I have just one virtual assistant, and she lives in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, but she is from Canada,
Okay.
and she's excellent. And then I don't know if you know this, I just 7 months ago I had my second son, and it took a
Congratulations.
maternity
Yeah.
leave. So thank you. And so that's a whole other thing. I brought in maternity coverage, and she was in America who covered it. But then you also have expectations of what you want that person to achieve while you're gone. And you can also feel disappointment when they're not you. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's an
Yes.
experience.
When you and I had first connected, like 3+ years
Years
ago,
ago.
I was pregnant with my son and we had talked about like maternity leave. Um, spoiler alert, I did not take really maternity leave. Spoiler alert, it was not a good idea that I didn't do anything. Like I just kind of kept working. And it was sort of complicated because my son was born a little early. He was in the NICU for
Hmm.
11 days. And in that time, I was like, well, what do I do? I guess I'll keep working. And I think working was my coping mechanism for the
Totally.
massive amount of PTSD that I had that I didn't know that I had. Um, and I didn't take any time off. And I realize now that that was a mistake, but I didn't know like what else to do. And of course, like as an entrepreneur, like there's no like, I mean, there's barely any paid leave in the US anyway, but especially when you're working for yourself, like I'm my own,
Yeah.
I'm my own like worst boss, you know what I mean? Like I'm just like, well, I guess I'll just keep doing this. Like I'll just keep working.
Well, Pennsylvania, I don't think Pennsylvania does have paid leave. So that does, or if
Ye
it does, I don't
I don't
know
think
how much it
we
is.
do. And it also really seems to depend on where people work. Like more than like a state thing, it's more like, oh, does my company like provide something? I don't know. But I'm not because I don't have like a 9 to 5 job. So I feel like I'm not like knowledgeable about that as much as I know that it's just really tough to come by like any decent paid leave.
Yeah, they don't have, so according to my best friend Google,
Yes.
and ChatGPT, my lover, Pennsylvania does not currently have a statewide paid family leave
Yeah.
medical program. So that's effed up, first off.
Yeah.
But so I had my first son in California, so I was able to do that. And then my second son was born in Colorado, and it was passed in 24, and I had him in 25.
Woo.
And so
Lucky.
that was something I was so cognizant of, like when we had our baby, our second, he's 3.5 years away from my first son. But I wanted to be like, I'm payrolling myself. I want to be able to redeem it. And I think I got like 1,100 a week with paid family leave, which
Oh,
was
that's
incredible
wild.
to have.
I didn't
Yeah,
know.
for 12 weeks.
I didn't even know that when you work for yourself, I didn't realize that was a thing. But I
Mhm.
guess it doesn't matter
Well,
that I
why would
realize
you
it's.
know?
I guess it doesn't matter that I know it's a thing because I'm in, I'm in Pennsylvania, so I guess it doesn't matter because we don't have it. So
It might be on the ballot, though. It looks like it might be coming up.
I like
It
that
advances in
you're.
the Pennsylvania House.
I like
Yeah.
that you're telling me about the state I live in. Like I don't even. I just don't even. I don't even know. I haven't paid attention to it at all, and I
Yeah.
clearly
Why would you?
should. Right, I know, but I feel like I clearly should be paying attention to it because it is a big thing. But frankly, even if I was, I was still paying myself anyway, I
Mhm.
still like couldn't find the space in my mind to separate myself from work. Like I couldn't find that space to put the work aside, right? And just just be a mom or just be working. Like I just couldn't find that balance to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard one to separate the two from one another. But it's in the past. You're already there. You're 3 years later,
Yeah, the real yeah, I did
crushing
it.
it.
Um So circling back to, coaching, you have come to terms with the word, right? And you're like, okay,
Mhm.
yeah, I am a coach. Um, have you, on this podcast, we talk a lot about like shady business dealings and scams and all that jazz. Um, have you run into some scammy stuff in this space? That you would be interested, at least sharing generally, some things that you've kind of run into that is interesting, are interesting to you.
Yes. Yes, I'll share a few things.
Great.
Obviously, like through the course of my community, there have been individuals that represent a brand that has multiple levels to the brand.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Are you talking about a pyramid
so
shape?
it's in like it's like a kind of 3D. It looks like what is in Egypt. Yeah, yeah, it could be pyramid. That's a great one to say. Um, so we've experienced, everything from isogenics. At one point, Rodan and Fields people were huge. Arbonne. One that was interesting that I actually stumbled upon recently, and I had no idea I was accidentally like involving myself into it, was so I did a hair test postpartum. Like we had to like chop like a good chunk of my hair, and I was just doing like a mineral test to see what toxicities and things like that.
Mhm.
And then at the end, she sent me like a whole list of things to order on this particular platform. It was called like Vicolum, something
Okay.
like that. Something that I'd never heard of. And then I was like, wait a second, what is this? And then went down Reddit, and it's like $300 supplements every single month on
Oh
this
my,
very
all
particular
right.
platform. And I was like, wait, what the heck did I do? It was just, I love this person, and she's a health coach,
Oh,
and or she has this specialty, and I didn't realize like this attachment to it.
okay. So
So that
you
was
run
cool.
into like coaches who kind of have like a connection with like multi-level marketing. Okay. Yeah, I
Yes.
fairly recently ran into, in my Dementia by Day, my business. I've been pitched now twice, and I did a podcast episode on this that came out recently about a summit. So like I've had two different women
Hmm.
come to me in the last 6 months about speaking on a virtual summit. And at first,
Oh yeah, a lot of
yeah,
this.
like the red flag didn't go up like for the first couple emails. Like the first conversation didn't jump out at me as like anything bizarre. And then, I'm really so glad that I realized pretty quickly that this was some sort of like scammy situation, because she was saying, oh, 100,000 people are going to watch this webinar. And I was like, what are you talking? And I realized this woman has no experience in the dementia care space, but was being coached. And she told me, actually, she was being coached to run a summit. And I was like, okay, no. And a few months later, I ran into the same thing. Somebody different, some other different woman reached out to me via email and was like, hey, do you want to be on my summit? 100,000 people are going to see it. And I was like, hold up. No.
It was the same script.
It was
Yeah.
essentially the same script. And I was like, what is going on here? So,
Was it MLM?
no, it was like literally someone, there's a person out there who's coaching people to run these like webinars, these big webinars. Yeah.
I know exactly who it is.
Yes.
Does it start with a K?
I don't think it does. So maybe there's multiple
Okay.
people. Oh my God. There's like
Yeah, the
multiple people
summits are
doing
very
this.
big right now.
Ugh, God. But like, it doesn't seem like the people who, they don't have any experience in that specific industry, because these were two women who didn't have any like actual solid dementia care background, but they're coming to me and other experts in my space to be like, hey, can you like essentially come and also give me your email list? Have you seen this?
Hmm.
What are they going to do with this
Oh
email
yeah.
list? What are they doing with this email list? Like they get my email list. What do they
Well,
want?
they don't get the email list. They get the opted in people from your email list.
Mm,
So it's the people who opt in to watch you on the summit. So basically you're a lead magnet. So your people are opting in, but it's through their back end. So they're benefiting from them opting into you.
Okay.
But the benefit, or like the way that they sell it typically, is then you're going to also get the emails of all of the people that have opted in. And if they don't say that, that's something that you would say, because it is a good list building tactic. But I'm finding like I'm getting a lot of outreach from these, and we have like 11,000 people on our email list.
Mm-hmm.
It's not shabby.
No.
And these people have like 100 people on their Instagram and like, 200 people on their email list. And I don't want them. Like those aren't my people. Or maybe
Right.
they are, but I feel like I'm then overextending myself for their benefit.
For their
And I think
benefit.
that's something to be
Absolutely. Yes.
cognizant of.
Yes. That was essentially what it was. It was like, how can you, Rachel, benefit me, random person reaching out to you? And it's like, not at all, actually. Not to mention, they had said to me, both of these women were like, we're looking for people with a 5,000 person email list. It's like, first of all, you don't have anything close to that. Second of all, in my space, especially if you have a clean list, like we regularly clean our list of people who aren't opening. That's a really good email list. And so
It's huge.
why, if I'm at a level where I have that many people on my email list, why would I be doing this for free? Like at all? But
No.
riddle me this. So they get let's pretend they get a bunch of people to like sign up through their back end, like for this. What are they doing with this list? Like when they build their
They're
list,
adding
what are
it
they
to their
doing?
list.
They what?
They're adding it. They warm the list. Typically, they introduce themselves. Then they like continue. Oh, if you liked Rachel on this, you should meet this person and watch this person. Or like, if you're interested in Rachel here, I'm selling something here. So they kind of use it as a leverage and to get into their world.
But what is their
It's,
world? That's what
I
I'm
mean, it's
confused about. Like, what are they doing? What are they selling?
probably another coaching program,
Okay.
probably a membership. Yeah, something else. But I will say at the beginning of my business, there was a platform, and I don't know if it's around anymore. I think it's evolved, but it was called Dojo Mojo.
I've
And
heard of
you
that.
could enter, I think, let's say I paid like, I'm going to make up a number, but I want to say it was like $1,600. You could get like 5 giveaway participations. And so I'd give away a year of membership to SDS and be aligned with other aligned brands. And
Mm-hmm.
then whoever opted in, the rules were like you had to, give your email, follow all of the accounts on Instagram,
Yes.
and maybe, tag a friend. And so it was incredible for list building. But can I tell you, like, to your point about clean emails, like it also trashed a lot of my emails. Like I would
Yeah.
get these random unsubscribes being like Mr. Bill Parker of Pennsylvania would be like the email or something. And it'd be like, I don't want your emails. I'm like, why are you on my email?
Yeah. Why are you on this list to begin with? Yeah, pretty much. Like it wouldn't be a clean list building. It's not really a clean list building strategy because they're not coming really to you. Like they just like ended up somehow kind of like on your list. So
Yeah.
you've run into this. I bet you've run into a lot of very interesting sort of scammy type coaching things, right?
Yes.
What anything else, that you'd be interested to share, like general scenarios?
I grew up with a mom who was very much always into multi-level marketing in some capacity.
Okay.
Like she did Juice Plus at one point. I've had the water, like the pure water. There's just like always been something. And then in high school, maybe it was late high school, early college, she got hooked into isogenics. And like the way that this one, my mother, I love her to pieces, like drinks the Kool-Aid of it is
Oh,
incredible. Like she'll go
yeah.
to the summits and everything. The best part though is like I developed an eating disorder on it in college, and I was just like lauded for how skinny I was and how great the product was in
Yeah.
terms of everything, when it was really more like me managing
Yeah, you
my
not
weight
eating.
because of calories.
Right.
Yeah, me not eating. And then in addition to that, after I had my first son, it took a while for the weight to drop off. And so I made an Instagram post about it. I told the world, like, I'm happy where I am, but I thought I'd be further along in my weight loss journey. And my mother-in-law sends me like the most beautiful message being like, I love your body. You should be proud of what you created, blah, blah, blah. My mom's like, I went ahead and I ordered $500 worth of Isogenics products.
Oh,
So if you want your body back, we can make it happen. I'll send you pictures of women like before and after. So there's like some mind fuckery.
yes, yes.
About this product in particular, which is again, if it works for you, that's great. It's just more the like not seeing beyond the Kool-Aid and in a rational way where it's like this is the only solution to the problem when it's not like, well, Emily, let's talk about like healthy nutrition and so on and so forth.
I was just yesterday talking to my friend Leah, who's back on this season of the podcast, because after having her son, she was sucked into an MLM because she had posted on Instagram, like, oh, like about like working out or something like that. And someone was, hey, girl, like, if you
Yes.
drink these shakes, you can lose this weight and also you can make money from home. And Leah was pretty young and was like, oh, okay. And fortunately, she saw through it pretty early on. Like she was only in
Yeah.
like less than a year and only dropped maybe like $1,000, which in the, you know, full like picture
Yeah.
of it is pretty limited, which is amazing that she got out as soon as she did. But yeah, like there are people, like who have been in it, and keep coming back and kind of get pulled into
Yep.
other things.
Yeah. No, it's a hard, I understand it, but I also don't understand it. And I also, don't get me wrong, like my sister sold what was Stella and Dot back in the day. Remember like the jewelry that we've all kind of been a part of it in some, it's touched
Sure.
us in some capacity in our lives. It's just the way it's defined is different for
Yes.
each person.
Yes. Yes. Um, So we see, the echoes of the MLM culture in modern day networking, business coaching circles. What has changed, in this entrepreneurial space from like 10 years ago to now? Like, maybe like the biggest thing you've seen.
Let's see. I would say that I feel like there's more due diligence in the internet. I think
Mm,
before, it was a lot more trust, and now there's a lot more fact checking. Like you can see a reputation, or you can see SEO, or you can see someone's footprint a lot longer versus, I think, like beginning of MLMs, it was more word of mouth, and there wasn't Instagram, there wasn't like this trust in Google
right.
the way that we had before. Um, Reddit is amazing. I love Reddit. I also do think with Reddit, you can go down both rabbit
Oh
holes for
yeah.
things. Like you can see the benefits and then you can see the negatives
Yeah.
with different things. But I think the biggest thing is the internet. Like the internet has made it really easy for people to not fall in. You just have to be willing to pause. Like for example, if I hadn't looked at like what is this supplement this gal's sending me or wants me to spend money on, and if I hadn't paused, I probably would have just been like, all right, I trust her, and ordered it and been like, why am I spending that?
Yes. The key is that pause, and being able to look around you. And unfortunately, not everybody has that skill locked in, I think. Um, and maybe there is more of that blind trust. Is like, well, this woman clearly is making millions of dollars doing this thing, like, and
Totally.
that she's telling me I can make millions of dollars. She looks successful, therefore I can be too.
Exactly. It's really, really, really easy to get caught up in like perception without doing the research because you're the feelings and whatnot. And then in coaching too, um, I think most of the people I've encountered, fortunately, have been like copacetic and have been legitimate human beings.
Yes.
I think there are people who might sell a methodology that might be a little unconventional, but generally speaking, like top of mind, nothing really. Oh, you think about like the vow. I think of the vow or Nexium or whatnot. Like there are some sketchy things out there.
So Sarah Edmondson's
Yes.
coming on my podcast in like a week. I'm really excited to
Okay,
interview
that's
her.
good.
Yeah.
But I will share with you, like I'm watching this with my husband, and I think NLP is amazing. There's so many modalities that they use that were so helpful. It then
Sure.
just took a really shady, dark turn.
Yeah.
And I probably would have another coaching thing that I think is sketchy, but people freaking love is like Landmark.
Landmark. Oh, I've heard of
Landmark.
this. But NLP, for anybody who, neuro-linguistic programming, right? So there are things that exist that are legit, but get, bastardized by people who shouldn't be using them. And of course, like Keith Raniere is a great example of somebody who's just like a bad dude, and is a good manipulator of people.
Yeah.
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 I mean, Keith Raniere
Yeah.
started, ran a couple MLMs. He tried to start a couple MLMs and like got sued by the FTC, I think, and then was like, "Oh, I'll pivot over here." And he got into more of like the group coaching, used very lightly, yeah.
I think that's a whole different podcast, but yeah, I'm always so intrigued by like the invitations of cult leaders and how like the domino effect of one person to another.
Yeah, well, if you have somebody in the group that you trust and you go, okay, well, I believe this person, you may go into it too, like almost getting, roped into like the supplement buying, like if you had not paused and done your due diligence.
Yeah. Then do I even need these supplements? And I'm also working with a nutritionist who was like, "What the F are you doing?" And I was like, yeah.
Well, like my friend Leah
like,
said the other day, she's like, you needed good people around you who can go, this doesn't seem legit. And unfortunately, not everybody has that. Not everybody has people around them who are going to be like, sure about that?
Totally. Gotta stop.
Clearly, we have so many more things we could talk about, but Emily, thank you for coming on today. Where can people find you / any last parting words of wisdom?
Parting words of wisdom. If you ever need help, like deciding if you want to start a business or a coaching business, I love talking to people about that. So I'm hanging out on Instagram. I think that's a great place where I show up the most. I'm Emily A. Merrell on Instagram, like the shoes, not the financial institution. And I'm also, you can find me at seconddegreesociety.com. And we host events weekly that are virtual. So if you're tuning in from a place we don't have an in real life outpost, I would love to meet you. It's always so fun to mix the room up with people from all over the country because there's so much, it's so beneficial to learn from people, especially people that aren't necessarily your next door neighbors. So yeah, please, you're welcome to come. And then Ready, Set, Coach too. We are a free community and there's a paid tier as well. So if you are a coach or coaching curious and want to dip your toe in there, hop on over to readysetcoachcommunity.com.
Thank you so much for being here. We should continue this conversation again another time because
I would love that.
There's a lot to unpack, in this space. Thank you for being one of the good ones. You're one of the good coaches.
Thank you.
That's so important.
I'm a good witch.
You're a good witch. Yeah, we need that. And thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Rachel.